Breaking news to bring you.
Alejandro Garnacho. Alejandro Garnacho.
Alejandro Garnacho!
Well, I was wrong. So how? Well, it all started with just a 16-year-old and a dream. Garnacho joined United from Atletico Madrid in 2020 after spending time in their youth academy. After a couple of seasons at United, he burst into the spotlight as he scored the winning goal in United's campaign to win the Youth FA Cup in 2022. It was clear that he was no ordinary player. He had this special trait around him, something unlike any other player around him. Yep, nobody realised this talent for a fair while, but that was until the 27th of October 2022, where everything as he knew it was about to change. He started in a Europa League group game where he finally had the chance to show his worth, and it's safe to say he did exactly that. The manager praised his performance, and it was clear that this was just the beginning of something special. Just a week after, he scored his first goal for the senior team, assisted by his idol Ronaldo. It felt like the crown was about to be passed from greatness to a legacy in the making. He continued to fire out performances throughout the rest of that season. A last minute goal against Fulham, a late winning assist against City, a goal against Wolves. He couldn't be stopped. He looked towards the 23-24 season as a season to thrive and really express himself. And to be fair to him, he did exactly that. This brings us to the 11th of February 2023, where I made this video right here. Where, to be fair, I made some pretty, well, odd claims and some fairly delusional takes. At this point in time, Garnacho was a consistent starter for United, following his Puskas winning bicycle kick against Everton. He was the shining light in the struggling United team. However, little did anyone know that this was the turning point that would turn out to be the complete demise of Alejandro Garnacho forever. To be fair to him, he carried on his form until the end of the season, even scoring against Man City in the FA Cup final. However, at the start of the next season, problems began to creep in. And in fact, these problems started a fair while back, yet they were only coming to light now. Attitude problems started to creep in at the start of the 24-25 season, and as with the rest of the players, his performances began to drop. There was just something missing from him. Something had changed, and with that came a lot of backlash from the fans. He began subtly criticising former manager Ten Hag by liking tweets criticising his use of Garnacho. Unfortunately, Ten Hag couldn't do anything about it, as he was on a sinking ship that led to his eventual sacking on the 28th of October 2024 and the appointing of Ruben Amorim. Garnacho found a new role under Amorim as a left attacking mid rather than a more direct left winger. Now, this was a problem for him, as he struggled to adapt to his position, resulting in batches of bad performances. However, instead of getting to work, he kept going on to social media and saying something stupid. Unlike Ten Hag, Amorim took no mercy and axed him from the squad ahead of an important league game against Man City. And to be fair, the team performed better without him. He managed to work his way back into the team, but it still wasn't enough. Following the loss of the Europa League final, Garnacho did a bombshell post-match interview, pretty much calling out Amorim for not playing him enough. This was the final straw for Garnacho, as the day after the final he was asked to leave the club by Amorim, being told, "You better pray that you can find a new club to sign you." And with interest from a variety of clubs like Chelsea, Napoli and more, Garnacho's time at United has come to an end. So how? How has this happened? How did Garnacho go from being talked about and labelled as the world's new and best prospect to a dying failure? And how much did I get wrong about that Garnacho video that I made just over a year ago? Well, to answer that, we have to look at two distinct sections. And make sure you stay to the end, because the last one is something that no one has noticed before. The first and most notable reason is his attitude problems. Looking at the season on paper, Garnacho has been alright, scoring 11 goals with 10 assists. But his actual play is the reason that lets down the team. He constantly loses the ball, and his decision making is completely off the mark, as he somehow makes the wrong decision every single time. And despite the 10 goals he's had already, his actual attack and play has been woeful. Those 11 goals came from a whopping 147 shots. For perspective, Salah this season has a few more shots at 168 shots, yet has over triple the goals. The shot to goal ratio is completely off to other big name players. Even in his own team, Diallo has the same amount of goals as him with 70 less shots. He can get the opportunity to shoot, yet he cannot be clinical enough to put it in the back of the net. Garnacho's attitude is best explained as this. He's got the ego of Ronaldo, yet the ability of Kieran Tierney. He overplays himself so much and separates him from other players like Diallo, who instead of speaking up, he just keeps his head down and works. He often posts cryptic messages ahead of the games, often seen as being completely unprofessional, and had already been dropped by Amram in December 2024 after the manager blamed it on attitude issues. As I also mentioned earlier, he was also caught in controversy with Ten Hag over attitude issues. Even in his earliest days when he was just being integrated into the first team training back in 2022, Fernandes and Ten Hag called him out for being late to training. He also liked tweets criticising Ten Hag following a game against Bournemouth, once again pushing this negative agenda. This can also be seen as a factor that saw the demise of Ten Hag at Manchester United. Now thankfully Amram has doubled down on attitude problems. He gave Garnacho the chance for a few games, benched him for the final, and instead of respecting the manager's decisions and going on with it, he decides after the game to slate the manager for the limited playtime and call the whole team crap. There's absolute zero excuse for the player of this ability to have that much ego and attitude to play for a club like Man United. However, the second reason for his demise is something that not many people don't even realise, and that's his brother. I'm not even exaggerating when I say this. If his brother just didn't exist, he'd be adored by fans. Now, if you're not on Twitter, you won't know what I'm talking about here, but Garnacho's brother, who's known more commonly as Roberto Garnacho, doesn't care what he says. Later last year, he was accused and pretty much caught leaking the team lineups before each game and decides to just slate anyone when Garnacho does bad. These lineup leaks were a huge reason for his exclusion from the squad when Amram came in. Instead of ignoring criticism like everyone else, Roberto defends his brother and fights back, which always, no matter what, ends badly. He's always rushing to his defense while slating other players in the team, as well as the manager. He liked a tweet earlier in the season when Mark Goldbridge talked about poor decisions of the manager not playing Garnacho, as well as tweets and even his own Instagram story criticising the manager about the final. This kind of thing with Roberto Garnacho has never been seen in football and is just seen as unprofessional. Now for the part you've all been waiting for. How many diabolical takes did I take in that video about Garnacho? Well, let's start with the obvious one. If we compare him to Ronaldo when he was 19, you can see both their skills are scarily similar. Yeah, don't ask. Now during that video I asked the question, will Garnacho be as good as Ronaldo one day? And in that video 20% of people said yes and the other 80% said no. When I asked the same question a couple days ago, we can see that it has fallen to 12%, with a staggering 88% now saying no. However, when I asked a year ago if Garnacho were to be world class in general one day, the majority of 74% said yes, he will still be world class player one day, with the rest saying no. Now when I asked that question today, the number has fallen slightly to 70% saying yes, so it's clear that people still have faith in him. But are they right? Well, to find that out, why not watch this video here, where you can see even more of the worst takes known to man.